first of all, I should have gotten in your car, which funny. He was going to give me a ride, and then I decided to wait for my car. Hence why we're late.
No worries.
What do you want to talk about, man?
Buy stuff, right?
Yeah. So listen, I think obviously, as she said, like, co-founder of VidMex, you basically invented the perpetual swap. I hear that's coming to traditional exchanges everywhere in the near future.
Everyone wants to leverage, right? But this year is open.
I mean, does it blow your mind that there's literally a chance that you'll be trading perpetual swaps on the CME?
Yeah, it's hilarious. I did not expect that at all.
But it is a superior product and a superior way for money to move.
Yeah, for if you want a retail investor who wants to make it look like margin trading, it makes sense, right? And so that's why people like it. It's easy, it's simple, and yeah, so I get it.
So NASDAQ is going 24/5, or at least in theory. Yeah. Right? Do you think that we get to 24/7, 365 in traditional markets? And if so, do you think that'll be on crypto rails or using technology developed by our industry?
So I was talking backstage to the CME guy who's the crypto guy, and I was like, oh, you're going to bring in 24/7 markets? And he's like, we're still going to have breaks. I think they have an hour break every day or something like that in their contracts. And he said one issue there that they have is like, how do you move money on the weekends, right? Because they have a clearinghouse, a different day system. The banks will open the weekend. So if you have margin issues, how do you move that collateral back and forth? I think that's one issue. So is that a stablecoin? Are they going to adopt USDC or Tether or something like that? And then the other issue is I still don't think they do real-time margining at the CME. So yes, it's great to have a 24/7 market, but if you're only margin calling people from like on Friday night and then Monday morning, kind of fucked up. So I think they've got a lot of work to do in terms of how you make these things actually work. And if Bitcoin gets more volatile or they start doing more shitcoins, then, you definitely get lines of a situation where people are caught out and they're not collecting their money in an efficient way.
Yeah, that makes forever sense. So moving on a bit, you become like the official Nostradamus of crypto. Everybody reads, they hang on your every bird. What's the prediction? Where's price going to go? Your crystal ball works less friend than mine. So you get the 70s.
Yeah, by yourself. Cut it, right?
Fucking nailed it. All right, so you hit the 70s. Up now. We buy.
Max bidding. There's buy everything.
So what are you most interested in, legitimately, as you look at things, assuming that we're entering this liquidity cycle that you talk so often about and that we're going to print till infinity?
Well, first, Bitcoin. We were buying a lot of Bitcoin to the pond. We took down exposure by like 30-40% mid-Jan, and then we started building it back up in late March, early April, and now we've sort of maxed out all of our exposure to crypto, and we've been buying mostly Bitcoin. But I think that's going to outperform pretty substantially between now and like whenever we get to like 70-ish% Bitcoin dominance, and then I think we get to the altcoin season that everybody is winning.
But that's like a fundamentally different thesis than we've seen before and in previous cycles. Because if you believe in the 4-year cycle, obviously we should have seen altcoins going absolutely nuts for the last 4 months.
We saw endpoints. That was absolutely nuts, right? It's just the money went somewhere that you didn't want it to go. You wanted it to go to, I don't know, some dog shit token that Paradigm shilled you, and it didn't. It went to Hyperliquid. It went to, Workcoin. Just went to different places. But we had a bull market, sure.
It's true, but it means that it looks different. So when you hit 70% Bitcoin dominance, as you're talking about, where do you redeploy when you're trying to rebalance? Do you think that there's a narrative that will power all of these utility tokens that have seen these huge moves in the past, that people actually deeply believe it and, actually do things? I mean, Fartcoin probably does something, I'm sure, but I can't speak to that. But
no, I mean, I think that we're going to see a return to cash flow, right? We've been doing this for 3 cycles, about a decade of, okay, we're going to fund these projects. They're going to get some users. It's usually going to pay some money. And then this protocol is going to be, profit generating. And theoretically, we're going to somehow get some money back from the protocol into token holding. Obviously, the reality is we've got none of that. You have no product market fit, no clients, no traction, no revenue back to token holders. What we have is like, but they're like $1 billion plus, fugazi market cap points. Right? And they obviously did very, very poorly in the last 18 months. But I think we're finally to the point where like, okay, well, there's what? 100 billion crypto wallets or something like that. No, some, few 100 billion in TVL across all the different chains. US protocols making real money. They've all gotten crushed over the last sort of 18 months as sort of alts console off. So there's probably a handful of projects that have clients who pay money, and some of that money makes it back to the token holders. Those are the types of projects that we're interested in buying for this next leg up. Because I think apart from those projects, there'll be some new narrative, some new thing. We'll all go crazy for it. That's cool. But if your coin is already listed and you've had an opportunity to show product market fit, and all you did was throw a party at the conference, then I think Blue's Open's going to be downloadable.
So we will never see the girl at dartboard. Everything, no matter what it is, goes out cycling it.
I think we'll see through a dartboard in a particular narrative, and all those coins in that narrative all go up regardless of whether or not they have any intrinsic value.
So how does your average person then, who's not doing this 24/7, 365, figure out something that actually has legitimate utility, value accrues back to the token, and therefore back to the user, like a real company?
I don't know, read something. It's pretty easy.
Read Archer's Medium post that he got 4 hours on the Reddit Saturday.
I mean, or he's just funny. Cool, I don't care.
Yeah, but so are there specific, I'm not asking you to call out specific company, but obviously Athena, you're deeply in. We know that. I've seen wild institutional adoption, which, by the way, I'm a little surprised by. I didn't think you guys were going to go that part, but it's been very, very impressive. Because at the beginning, obviously, people thought it was kind of a speculative idea, and it was in the wake of the algorithmic sort of stablecoin lust, which is not what you are. But and it's not your project, of course, as an investor. But I think the stablecoin narrative, or finding a way to participate in that, is going to be the lowest AE for probably the most obvious place to see me look out.
Yeah, I mean, you go to a non-Western country and Tether's great, right? When I go skiing in Argentina, I can my guide at Tether, be my driver at Tether. Everybody's very it's really where I'm fishing. So if you need a dollar banking system, Tether, I own a public blockchain, is great. If you want to earn the basis yield on crypto and earn a yield on your dollars with higher treasuries, Athena is great. So I think with structural demand for these things, and that's why they've done well.
But that's been one of the actual few sticking points in the legislation on stablecoins in the United States. So obviously we know it's going to happen. Whether it happens in a way that's favorable to us, I have no idea. It could just be a bunch of gold and coins, and I have no idea. But yield has been sort of the sticky point. Like, in their words, everyone's hard. I know, but I do. The industries are pushing hard to allow yield in the stablecoins in legislation, and that's been kind of the one place that the Congress people, even those who are very favorable, have said maybe not.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Tether is the best bank that's ever been created. They have 100 employees. They make $10 to $15 billion of profit every year. And they have 100 employees. Most profitable financial institution in the world per employee ever in human history. And they do what a bank should do. Okay, what do I want a bank to do? Throw my money. Okay, cool, done. I want to send it to somebody. Really glad somebody cheap. Done. Okay, great. That's all I really want a bank to do. They'll make you loans. They'll draw all these things. Tether is a better version of a bank. A bank doesn't want to allow other people to do their job better than them. So that's why they're going to make sure that there's no real reason why you use Tether over, say, like Goldman Coin. They all pay nothing. Therefore, the best distribution arm wins, and a bank is always going to have a better distribution arm in their own currency in America. Right? You're not going to beat JP Morgan distribution job.
Which just brings it back to being most likely that the stable points that are issued by banks are going to look just like bank accounts where they earn the yield and pass none of it on.
Correct.
To the customer.
Correct.
That's why they don't want it, is that they can make 4% on treasuries and give you nothing.
Correct. Sorry, thanks for playing.
Thanks for playing, but kind of counter. We have this cognitive dissonance, obviously, where we were all a bunch of cypherpunks who were raging against the machine, and now we're like cheering the machine to fuck us.
I mean, that's only if you're an investor in Circle, yes.
I didn't say it. Circle and Tether, Kiva coming out right now. I think it shows us how kind of contentious that our play is for how legislation will happen to stablecoins. It's not like one big happy.
Well, I mean, I think Circle's fundamentally fucked because number one, they pay all their money to Brian Armstrong. So Brian Armstrong's a real daddy of Jeremy Allaire. So whatever Brian Armstrong wants to, Jeremy Allaire has to like jump to, right? So at some point, Coinbase buys Circle, and I think that's the trade there. What's that multiple that they mine in at? I don't know. But like Americans have Cash App and Zelle and Venmo and PayPal. You don't need Tether or USDC or JP Morgan Point, right? This shit kind of works. You already have dollars. But if I'm in Argentina or I'm in Indonesia or I'm in somewhere that people want to have a dollar bank account when they can't get one, then Tether makes a lot of sense. And that's where Tether's adoption. It's not in America. So yeah, you have the worst stablecoin bill, whatever comes out, Tether will still be dominant because it's all about the rest of the world who wants the dollar banking now, not what Americans want. Because that's just a race to the bottom. Even if it's favorable, it is to be 15,000 stable points. How you differentiate yourself? You spend a bunch of VC money and you make nothing. Okay, great.
And Tether's incredibly interesting, especially in our terms that we were all there for Tether True Thing.
Yeah.
Right? Her name Tether wasn't fully, fully backed by assets we loved in the past. I think it's pretty clear that they are now. You have this interesting situation where they're not U.S. native, so maybe they're on the outside looking in with legislation, but they're the sixth largest liar of United States treasuries, which last I checked, during a trade war, are becoming less and less popular.
Yeah, so it's an interesting time.
So, in your opinion, with the tariffs or the trade war and all these things, do you think it's more likely that their favorable view on stablecoins because they are there to buy the treasuries? Let's be honest, Japan and China are probably selling them. Somebody has to buy those.
Well, I think it's structural. They're not going to allow people to keep as being banked in America. So, yeah, that's why the yield thing isn't there. Sure, there's going to be stablecoins, and I think at the end of the day, they're going to make it very good for PX in the U.S. to deal stablecoin. And, maybe it's just cheaper to send money within America and a stablecoin. But again, it doesn't matter. There'll still be people buying treasuries because Tether is popular in China and East Asia, Tripoli. This is kind of it's a nothing work.
All right, so let's get to the good shit. Bitcoin dominant 70%. What's the price of Bitcoin at that point before you're interested in?
I think maybe somewhere 150,000, something like that. We need to break through the 110.
We need a bigger number if we're going to put this on YouTube. Only 150,000? No, so that said, do you think that we are still doing a cyclical traveling of prices that will go in and out of Bitcoin and back to all voids? We talked about the fact that we still have to be more directed and more targeted. But do you think that we still get these 80% drawdowns, 150 back to 70, 500? Or you think now it's a more steady climb with the institutional sovereign government bid?
I mean, I think we'll definitely do 20, 30% correction on the way up. Just like the legacy, there won't be the 80% like from like $250 to 70 or whatever it was back in the day, or was even a little bit more volatile, but there will be corrections for sure.
So what do you think inherently drives this price up? You've written a lot about it being liquidity, so maybe we should dive into that for people who haven't virtual thesis.
Yeah, and I only care about how many units of fiat are in the world. I think there's going to be a lot more, and every government prints money to sort of deal with this change in monetary order. Who knows what it's going to look like? They're not going to look at what it looked like the past 6 years. People don't like change. When politicians have to do change, they print money to make sure it feels okay. So that's the thesis.
But do you think that money printing right now is inevitable in the United States? I do, from the record, that there are a lot of people who see what Doge is doing and see the trade wars that they actually go, obviously.
Well, I mean, the data came out, the first, this YouTube another 25 is 22% higher already from October to March, and this YouTube of 24. Okay, fine. Doge has only been in existence for 2 months, but the data says that Doge isn't working. The deficit's still expanding. The estimate is that tax season in the U.S. is going to come in lighter than last year. The deficit expands. So, again, Doge and Elon, the driving force behind the pneumatic Doge, steps off the train and he goes back to Tesla. So you could imagine that the whole, without Elon at the helm, it's definitely not going to be more effective. Not to say they're not going to cut anything, but without him, rallying the troops, facing up against the opposition who doesn't want their funding cut, they're going to become less effective over time. So if they couldn't cut that much in the first 3 months of the year, they certainly couldn't with the rest of the year, especially if China said, you know what, I'm just going to sit over here and wait it out. We're not coming to the table to negotiate any sort of really reduction in tariff. For high, the cosmetic things that both sides do.
Is that your base case? I I first said that's my base case, but China will be very difficult. Nothing gets results super.
Yeah, that's my base case.
And so, is there anything that violates your thesis? Anything, recession, depression, I don't know, Great Reset, whatever I mean, you like her heirs, jealous gonna happen.
Trump or whoever, whatever politician said, okay, American people, we have lived too high for too long and borrowed money. We are going to extinguish all this bad credit to the system. Yes, there's going to be some bankruptcies, people lose their jobs, but we're going to summon this hangover together and we're going to hers out of the other side stronger. If that was a message, then I would say, okay, I could see some negative headwinds to amount of money being created. But that is not the message of Trump, or wasn't the message of Biden or Harris. It won't be the message of whatever the next Democrat voting against, whoever the next Republican is. So if the austerity is the message, then it's fully printed money, and it's just a question of which side of the aisle gets the goodies.
It turns out austerity and telling people there's going to be a Great Depression isn't that politically.
Trump tried it for 10 days. It didn't work.
Accurate. So if this liquidity cycle is kicking in, how much of a delay do you think crypto usually sees from what we see that be equal sort of pumping global M2 liquidity coming in?
Well, I think we bottomed at April 9th, 74,500, and we had a policy response with them with message saying we're going to do buybacks. The Fed saying we're ready to support the market if something happens, and I think that was about. And so, yes, the money will trickle through and start seeing it in the data, but from a sentiment change, I think that was, so now is the time to go long, similar to, late Q3, early Q4 of 2022, very bearish for all risk assets. Janet Yellen came in and printed $2.5 trillion over the next 2.5 years if, we are where we are, right? So I think we're at that sort of situation.
I'm going to ask a terrible question. What about in theory?
I think that you get a unit of fiat capital and you say, okay, which L1 do I want to buy? I think Ethereum performs very well, much better than others, just because it's hated so much today.
I can't stop buying Ethereum and I hate myself every second, but that's usually my signal that I'm right.
You hope so.
I really don't comprehend why it is so incredibly beat down.
I mean, relative to the transaction metrics of Solana and viewpoints, you get it, right? Set it to 300.
Yeah, but when did metrics matter?
They matter when they matter. And they don't when they don't.
So, a lot of eyes have obviously been on Powell and the Fed, which you mentioned. People have looked to the Fed for liquidity in the past. I've seen a lot of arguments that the Fed is somewhat neuter at this point. It actually doesn't really matter what Powell does at this point, that we're more fiscally dominated and it's sort of misdirection. Do you think the Fed will cut? And if so, what would make them do so? And does that mean things are actually about to improve?
I mean, I don't even know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, 2022, they were hiking rates and Janet Yellen printing $2.5 billion. Well, what did Powell do? He sat there like a little bitch. So you can sit there like a little bitch like Vesta does if you buy back.
But that's my point, is that doesn't matter what the Fed does anymore. That's the argument, is it's all fiscally dominated and it really just matters. So that's
exactly. It doesn't matter.
Is there any, I don't see any path that isn't massive money printing, but do you think that we'll see the level of stimulus that we saw over the past, we call it 17, 18 years, but in the early 2020, 21, honestly, you're in a voting area. Do we see that again?
I mean, I think so. There's this tax cut bill that Trump is about to unveil, and then seems that's to be very fiscally positive in terms of sending. I think so. I think it's going to be growing again, 22% higher than last year. So I don't even feel that. That's just the data.
And so when you're looking at narratives, we talked about the fact that the AI agent narrative. We remember the metaverse.
Yeah,
I was supposed to be living with a spiral in the metaverse already, and my mansion's worth nothing. But are there any narratives that actually excite you that are coming when you're looking to redeploy, or any of these that you think would be profitable just paid in, whether you believe in it or not?
I don't know. I think right now it's up too expensive. So on the early stage venture side, founder goes to the bull market. Those checks and the FTVs are too high for us. So we're not currently participating in at many deals because we don't have to do deals. So I think that it's time to do liquid trading, buy Bitcoin, Better go up.
But it's overtrade because it's in a bull market, and I feel like founders I talk to do not feel like we're in a bull market.
I mean, a decent deal with a strong team, blah blah blah, right? You have so much competition, too much capital chasing huge bigs.
Okay, so we have a supply problem.
Yeah.
I know that there will be narratives that pop, but if we have every founder waiting to launch their tokens till the conditions are right, yes, and I hear when I talk to everybody, what happens when literally everybody launches when the conditions are right?
It depends on how they launch, right? I still think there's this misguided belief that I need to have the tier one centralized exchange. I got to get this market maker. And I'm like, you guys are giving me all these incentives, right? Why me or nor you could sell these tokens? So why do you care what the price is? Like, take all those tokens and give them to your users so that they do what you want them to do instead of giving them the CV. I love CV, but fuck it.
Here's just unstated Raul Paulo for you to see, actually. But yeah, but that said, why do you think they're still chasing this model? I think they're so far behind.
Because the employees prove that model doesn't work. Because it's hard. Doing the hard thing means you have to have a real product, and most of them don't have a real product. And so they do need Binance. But without Binance, they're fucked.
But what because you just build a big ass Telegram community and launch on the DEX and provide the liquidity and call it a day. And
yeah, I mean, it's to build a community.
That I don't know if it's Binance or whatever, but we know that like most centralized exchange listings are paid for with the token that the centralized exchange immediately dumps.
Correct.
The second that it's launched, which means this thing can literally never be successful. We're not the only people that know that. Why the fuck would you do it?
Because you have no product, you have no clients, you don't pay any money, and all you have is a token. And so you're going to play a little game, and then hopefully by the end of the game, there's a little bit residual left over for you and your boys, and that's good, right?
Hey, so hash out then, if you were going to launch something, what's the right way to do it? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but if you had a viable product, let's pretend that happened.
Yeah, so you have viable products. I've got some clients. I would launch my token, and I'll be distributing almost as much of it as I can. Really low price. I don't know, 10 million FTV or something stupidly cheap, right? So that now that chart is always looking like this. Even if it's only 10 to 20. At least it's a green candle. And so when someone looks at it, I'm going to get this token for free. Oh, we're not 100%. They don't think, well, we went from 10 to 20. They just think, well, I'm 100%, right? This is human nature, right? So make the chart look good. Make it cheap. Making it expensive and you can't even sell it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it just comes back. Sadly, we're humans, and there's no better marketing than price.
Exactly.
Price goes up, people want to buy it. And that's why everybody's going to buy Bitcoin at 150 before it goes to 70 or before it goes to 500.
I hope so.
Any final thoughts, man, before we jump?
Buy everything.
Buy everything, everybody. Buy everything.